Hi everyone, welcome to JXG Spotlight. I'm Gamika De Silva, your host. I'm overwhelmed and happy to see the comments and feedback about our podcast, and that motivates us to bring you exciting topics during our podcast. So, today I have invited a dynamic young personality to talk about a topic which is buzzing on the corporate world. Before explaining about the topic, let me give an introduction to my guest speaker today. Sathma Jayasinghe, a dynamic young leader making waves both in the corporate strategy and social impact. She is currently serving as Assistant Manager, Mergers and Acquisition at Janashakthi Group, bringing sharp analytical thinking and a purpose-driven mindset to the heart of business decisions. Satma previously led over 10,000 young change makers as the district Rotaract representative for Sri Lanka and Maldives, where she oversaw more than 3,000 impactful projects. With a background of financial engineering, logistics, and an MBA under her belt, she has also been recognized regionally for her leadership innovation and advocacy in youth empowerment. Satma, welcome to JXG Spotlight, and the spotlight is on you.
Thank you so much for having me, Gamika. It's a pleasure being here.
Right, Satma. So, to start our conversation, your intro said it all. I'm going to focus on these change makers and the projects that you have done. Can you tell me about how did you get into all of this? And 3,000 projects is amazing. I mean, that's a lot. How did you get into Rotaract and doing these projects? What drove you, and what was that thinking behind?
Well, it was maybe about 9 years ago now. It was very random. I stumbled upon a group of people. I didn't know about volunteerism or community service back in the day at all. It was just a fun group of people. We had food after every discussion. But that was so unique and so exciting for me that I stayed on. So that is the Rotaract Club that I joined. And it was like a sandbox experience for me, right? I was learning all these new words, new things about project management. I've never heard these things before. And I've learned so many different things, and it was a very exciting journey. And I quickly rose through the ranks and whatever the hierarchy of the Rotaract world was.
And so you got into Rotaract through school, or?
No, I wasn't an interactor. So
Okay.
the Rotaract movement has three parts to it: Rotary, Rotaract, and Interact.
Interact, yeah.
But I was never an active interactor. I've heard about it. My friends were involved. I was never involved.
Okay.
Rotaract was just a random shot. I thought, okay, maybe I'll try something new this time. I was inspired by my brother most of the time.
Right.
And I thought I should also give it a chance. So it was very random.
Right.
My friends were like, you know what, we'll just go for one meeting, we'll check it out,
Okay.
and we'll see. If you like it, we'll just see. And
Sure.
9 years down the line, here I am, right? So throughout all of those, then I got into all of these massive scale projects that I myself don't know how we pulled it off. And it was like a crazy roller coaster of experiences, good and bad. Of course, there were so many times where we've cried, we've failed, we've been broken down, we've shed so much of sweat and tears and energy, but it's also like really positive when you look at it afterwards. You're just glad that you went through it.
Absolutely.
So that was like my whole, all of that dopamine, that energy, that
That energy you
excitement.
get, yeah.
That is what kept me going. And I think something that I've really loved throughout the experience is learning the art of leadership. Not just through myself, seeing other people, seeing so many inspiring people within that movement. I think I've learned that, well, the true essence for me of leadership that comes from being human, being kind, being authentic, standing your ground, staying true to yourself. I think that's like leadership core for me. So that's something I've learned from the movement, and I'm so grateful to be here. It's so much of pride and joy. But yeah, that was my experience, and that's how I got involved.
I can see the pride and joy coming out when you speak about it. Also, I think, me being a president scout also, I remember the community service actually really gave you some energy, as you said, the dopamine, that energy, the feeling, aftermath, and all that. And I could also see the reflection of your leadership when you lead projects at Janashakthi Group as well. So coming into 3,000 projects, that's quite a large number. Any project that you can right now, even I'm sure that it will be difficult for you to pick one, but something that is very memorable, close to your heart, that you can talk with pride. Would you like to take us through that experience briefly?
Sure. Like you said, it's a very, very difficult job because our projects span from so many different things, from maybe, let's say, coral restorations to building or refurbishing train compartments to all of these education-based projects to crazy amount of different focus areas, different things across the border. But if I talk about something very close to my heart, it's a project called Sneha that I did. So basically, me and my team, we went to a very economically challenged area within Colombo itself.
Okay.
And we were teaching English, math, science to kids from basically from like 5-6 years old to like O levels.
Wow. Okay.
And the most heartwarming or the heartfelt moment for me was whenever we go, so we used to go about maybe twice, thrice a week, they would just come and hug you and like kiss you, and like all the kids would just like surround you and just like would not let you go. And they were so enthusiastic when we were teaching something that their parents have never seen in school or wherever they learn something. And it was very exciting. Maybe it was because we are much more closer to their age and we could, I don't know, be with them more. But it was so heartwarming, and whenever I talk about it, all these flashbacks comes to me, and that's one of the most, I think, very, very dear projects to my heart. I absolutely love that experience. That whole feeling is just amazing. And I personally also love teaching people. I really enjoy that. So that experience is something that I will never forget and would always have with me.
So these kids are from underprivileged families?
Yes, underprivileged, economically challenged areas within Colombo. Some of them don't have their parents. Some of them just live with their maybe grandparents. Some of them don't like live with someone they know, like a relative. So they've gone through quite a bit in their lives, even at a very young age.
So for how long did you do this project for?
We've done this, so even after I left, I wouldn't say leave. Even after my time, I think this project was carried on for years.
Right.
We started this back in 2019, so it's been going on for years now. So we keep changing. More people come in to teach. More people come in to help out. So it's been a continuous project.
Fantastic. Sathma, this is now leading us into our conversation with regard to the social work. In the corporate world, I have seen during the past couple of years, CSR was a key subject. We speak about sustainability. Now finance have taken extra interest because now with triple bottom line reporting, the sustainability is a key part of your annual report. We also know that the United Nations framework in terms of looking at ESG framework coming into the system, and the corporates are very much interested and the conversation is on. On the other side, we also saw DEI being recognized, diversity, equality and inclusivity being a key subject, key agenda point in the corporate world. Now, my question to you from on behalf of our followers, explain to me in a very simple term, on a layman's term, how does all these 3 or 4 things fit into a corporate strategy?
Okay. So it is a lot of things, elements put together, I would say. If we break it down, so ESG, for me at least, of course the acronym stands for your environmental social governance. But it's more than that, words aside, ESG purely is about being recognized for more than just how companies act financially. It's more than just being profitable, and how how back in the day companies would be just purely based on their financials, profit. That's it. By hook or by crook, you get the money and that's it. But now people have so much more standards when it comes to judging a corporate, which is why we bring in our responsibility. So if you look at it, it's basically a set of lenses, like 3 lenses, where the company is responsible for the planet, the people, and of course,
how good they are being.
Exactly, how they organize and how behind the scenes sort of work, So that's ESG for me. CSR, on the other hand, has moved from philanthropy to purpose. So back in the day, it would be like a charity project, a one-off donation. Here we go, we did something good on the side. But right now, it's purpose-driven acts. It's building it into your strategy or building it into your core values. As a company, of course, they have their values. This is what we stand for. This is what we work towards, right? So your purpose, that is your purpose. So everything that you do to the community, being built into that is CSR. Right? Whereas DEI, again, is, of course, it's the people element of it, right? If you've ever felt excluded anywhere, you can relate. I'm sure every human has gone through this. Being included is is so amazing, right?
Yeah.
It is the feeling. DEI is basically that, right? Diversity, inclusion, equity is about making sure that that human part of you is showcased through your company as well.
Right.
So it's not just ticking a box off.
Sure.
It's not just like saying, oh, we have this person for diversity's sake, but it's also about giving that opportunity for every human, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what they carry, regardless of their personalities, regardless of their perceptions, right? It's about making sure that we have quality set of humans from all over. And I've noticed that companies who do this right, and I believe personally, I think JXG also does it quite beautifully, but companies who do this right, they have more innovation, they have more resilience rather than companies just do it to just tick off some boxes, right? So that's DEI for me is basically that inclusion.
Okay.
So yeah, different elements to it, but ultimately, I think a company is responsible for all of these aspects, right? Whether it being a purpose-driven initiative, whether it being inclusivity of all kinds of humans from all walks of life, or whether it's doing good and being responsible for the environment, for the community, for our internal stakeholders, all of that.
So, Sathma, beautiful explanation. It's very clearly articulated. Now, that leads me into a few other questions as well. Is there an overlap in these in these areas, or does it stand alone?
There is a massive overlap. I feel it's very interconnected. It's very intertwined with each other. Why? Because ultimately we are trying to be better humans and a better corporate citizen for today's world, right? So in that sense, if you do one thing and if you don't do the other, that's a mismatch in it. But if you start doing one thing, maybe let's say building a purpose-driven set of initiatives, right? Aligning your good with all of your company strategies would also mean that, hey, oh, look, indirectly or directly, we are helping the environment. Indirectly or directly, we are giving some social impact, right? And it also means that indirectly, we have better governance, we have better leadership that believes in these purposes. It's all interconnected. So when you start with one thing, I think it rolls on to everything else, and not just CSR, ESG alone, but also it shows in, it could be simple as branding. Absolutely. It shows in your branding. It shows in the people that you have at the company. It shows.
I'm actually going to come into the branding side a little later.
Yeah, but it shows in the personalities of humans. You're proud of it. You're proud to be a part of this company that does these things, right? So it shows in everything that we do. So it's all interconnected. I think the goal is to start somewhere and just see yourself across all of these different elements.
Interesting. So take this entire thing as a package. I understand from a corporate point of view now, especially you being a person representing the younger generation, how impactful for potential employees or for you to select a company to join in. Maybe during my era we didn't look at it, right? I believe there is some impact in terms of selecting that employee. I know there's an impact on the consumer, but from a more employer side of it or potential employee side of it, how impactful are these things on the being a corporate, being a better corporate citizen is impacting you to apply for a job there?
Oh, very much so. I don't know if it's just me, but I look at this, I think, properly. I've walked into interviews where I've had discussions with the interview, and if I felt like it doesn't align with my personal values, I walked away, which is rare because it's always the interviewer who has the upper hand, right? But I've said, look, this does not align with my personal values. This is what I believe in, and I don't see this being a fit, and I've walked away. Purely because, I feel like it brings a lot of personality and character and energy to you. If your company believes in what you believe in, I think that resonates a lot. Yes. Yeah. It's intertwined. And I think it's not just me. A lot of people that I talk to in my generation, my friends, a lot of people I've worked with, the youth that I worked with, they also feel, I think, very strongly about this, because in this day and age, we are focusing a lot more on responsibility, I would say. Like globally, I think we are spending, by 2021, we've spent about $35 trillion on ESG-related funding. And by the end of this year, it's supposed to hit $50 trillion, which is massive, which is like 1/3 of global investments altogether, which is crazy, right? which means that people care about these things. It's not just about your paper qualifications and how much you get paid at a job anymore. It's also about how it aligns with yourself, how much you can be yourself at a workplace, how vocal you could be about things, and how much value you're given to an individual as well, to an employee. That I think goes a really long way. A company, of course, equally must value their employees just as much as the employees would look up to the company and value the company. So I think it really does make a difference if we do invest a lot in ESG and CSR and responsibility overall, I would say.
Yeah.
And of course, make sure that it shows in our employees and the existing stakeholders.
See, I think you beautifully articulated the whole story. I recently read a book, and that also spoke about setting your purpose from organization point of view as well as from individual point of view. I think this is where it both meets. Your purpose in terms of why you do something and the organization purpose. If it meets, I think the organization will benefit as well as the employee will also enjoy what they do, right? Maybe yesteryear a lot of people didn't look at it because we were going after the job at any cost, but now the generations have changed, the information are available, and they're very well educated also. Coming into CSR, one of the arguments I had with one of my former bosses was CSR should be CSR. It shouldn't be strategic, because I come from a brand background. I always look at, is there a brand strategy around it? Whether your CSR initiative aligns with your brand, because it definitely adds value to the brand. Brands are built with purpose, and this has a connection. But I had this argument with him, and he used to win, obviously. What is your view on that? Does CSR need to have a strategic part to it, or should it connect to your brand?
Well, I think, of course, people can define it however they wish to. But personally, how I would see it is that everything that you do must have some sort of purpose behind it, right? You can call it strategy, you can call it whatever you want. However you define it, it has to be purpose-driven, because if you don't have a purpose, if you can't pinpoint your why, your what, your how, it doesn't really make sense for me, because then it's just, I just did it for the sake of doing it, or because someone else told me to. But if there's a what, if there's a why as to, why you do what you do, then there's purpose. Then there's passion involved, right? If there's a purpose, you build your passion into it. This is why I'm doing it. This is why I get up in the morning and go for this. Or, that passion is then,
driven.
Strongly embedded into everything that you do. That for me is a part of the strategy also, because it's also the mindset. It's also the environment that you create for the people. If you just randomly just go and do a project, that's just that.
Yeah.
But if you have that passion, then it creates sort of like a ripple effect, right? It can be a project that's scalable. It can be a very sustainable project. By that, what I mean is that it could be a very long-term project, because I think even at JXG, we look at very strong long-term impact, right? And to give that, you need to have a purpose, right? You need to put 110%
into that.
You need to have your heart and soul in it.
Absolutely.
Right? And that could be a part of the strategy. And see, by having your heart, what it means is that you have all of these elements to it. You have your purpose, you have your what you do, how you do it, and what more can we do? What's the impact? Who's the beneficiary? Who are we targeting? What kind of an impact do they get to take back home? What do they do with this? Right? We do some good. If it's just one-off for them, that's it, right? But if they can take back something home, if they can teach it to maybe their peers, take it to their parents sometimes. We work with a lot of youth, right? If they can take something back to their parents and their communities, that's a win for us. So that's long term then. You might do the project today, but 10 years down the line, you would still, have the benefit. You would still be enjoying benefits from it. You would still see that impact. So I think that long-term goal, that long-term vision is a part of strategy, right? You need to embed it into the things. You need to talk about it. You need to discuss it. You need to see the vision of whatever it is that you do.
Sure.
So I believe that it has to be incorporated into a strategy. I believe that it has to be incorporated into the blueprint.
Part of your corporate strategy.
Absolutely. It has to be involved in your blueprint for it to have very long-term sustainable impact. At least that's how I say it.
Sure. Sathma, also, I think, I have also a point of view where the strategy should also connect your value chain. It has to be either adding into that ecosystem of the business that you do. Either you empower your consumer, or you empower your the value chain, your suppliers, on that side of it, it has to be empowered or nourished so that your business continuity finally has an impact, because we do business in this world. Also, on the other side, what I've seen is, I know it's slightly controversial, there are companies in their process of doing business, there's some negative output to the environment or to the society. And these companies also go and do some of the activities on the sustainability side, on the CSR side, to just to nullify and negate the negative impact. What are your views in that?
Well, for the first half of the question, yes, I think being involved in your value chain really does make a difference. Example, if you're in the financial sphere, of course, it could be about financial inclusivity,
Yeah.
right? One thing is that it brings out your expertise. If it's insurance, it could be about protecting the vulnerable, right? So it gives you a little opening to add your expertise into it. So I think that makes a lot more sense when it is, drilled into your value chain or your supply chain, right? It could be starting from your suppliers or to your end consumer. Whatever it is, I feel like it's a bit of you in it, right? It's like adding your personal touch to it at a corporate level. Then, if it's aligned with your background, what you do, then there's a bit of you in the mix, right? So I think that's really important. And of course, people can choose not to do that as well, definitely. It doesn't make it less valuable, but I feel like it gives a little bit of personality and character to what you do, right? And for the second half of the question, yes, of course, I feel like this is everywhere, right? Of course, there can be some things that you do that would affect the environment negatively, but the positives that you do might outweigh it so much more, right? Of course, if you can take off the negativity, that would be the ideal world,
but sometimes
right?
it's unavoidable,
Exactly. Right? It's inevitable, right? There's good and bad in the world. Unfortunately, it's inevitable. You can't avoid it. Yes. As long as your positive impact is giving a net, positive, I think that's still a win, and it still helps the society in so many different ways. So as long as you have that purpose in the back of your head and not just, we are nullifying our negatives, but rather creating a net positive, I think that should be the end goal.
All right. I'm taking your attention towards the UN sustainability goals. Now, this has nicely defined set of goals on 17, I believe. How does this framework set into a corporate strategy, Sathma?
So I'm a strong believer in the 2030 agenda. I think it gives us a very focused direction, right? Rather than being all over, I think our focuses would be narrowed down to one particular goal. It also goes to show that collaboration is key, right? Rather than one individual party working in isolation. When you collaborate, when you do it together with people, the effect is so much more than that, right? Which is why we've come so far since 2015 when we first launched, or when the UN first launched these 17 SDGs. And you can see that effect, right? If you look at the stats, you can see how far we've come from where we were, and that's a collective effort globally. Yeah. All of these companies around the world, they're doing, or they're getting together for one set of
common goals.
Yeah. That's amazing. I think that goes to show the collaboration and the power of it, which is why if companies do align with SDGs, I feel like it creates not just a great environment for your company, but it also goes to show how much you impact the world and what you do to contribute to shape the world around you, right? It's a bigger purpose.
Absolutely.
Which is why I feel like it's really important that we do align it with a global common goal.
Fantastic. I was at one of the UN Global Compact conferences a couple of months ago. It shows the commitment from the top corporates coming together, as you rightly said, collectively working on some of those projects, and it has a multiple effect on the society and the world at large. Now let's discuss about the Janashakthi Foundation. Now you work as the assistant manager for the mergers and acquisition, and you wear another hat on the Janashakthi Foundation side. You're actively taking part, obviously with your background, and that's a passionate area. Talk us through about Janashakthi Foundation. I know it's early days, but what is in store for the society at large?
Yes, Janashakthi Foundation, I would say we are still at a very infant level, but we're getting there. We have three main pillars: sports, education, community. by this, what we do is so much more than just fitness and a healthy lifestyle. We want to empower the youth in terms of giving resources, giving the knowledge, giving the tools, and also building their confidence, their mindset, right? Because if you do that, we start from a very young age, ultimately they go back and, they serve the nation, right? Ideally, essentially our goal is to empower the nation as a whole, and that's purely through sports and even through education. Again, we sort of level the playing field. We give them the tools, the knowledge, and give them the resources to get to where they want to be, because sometimes there's so much of potential out there.
Absolutely.
So many kids with amazing talent, but they might not have the right tools. That's the gap that we want to bridge through the foundation, through education. And again, community service or the community development pillar focuses on getting right into the center of our local communities, making sure that they are heard, that they are given some sort of reassurance. So those are the three pillars that the Janashakthi Foundation focused, and ultimately our goal is to do something really impactful for the nation through these three pillars. And something I used to say back when I was I would say a title holder is that movements or social impact organizations, we don't really inherit from our predecessors. Rather, we borrow it from our future generations. It's a thought, yes. Why? Because everything that you do now would have an effect 50 years down the line, would have an effect 100 years down the line, right? Every decision that we do right now would definitely have an impact years down the line.
Yeah.
So technically, everything that we do right now is for them. So we want to figure out what it is that we want to protect or build for them, right? So all of the decisions that we do, we want to ensure that it goes to our future generations through sports, through the community development pillar, or through education. So that's
Beautifully
essentially
said.
what we are looking at.
Beautifully said. Janashakthi Group is a emerging financial conglomerate. We have set our eyes in terms of having inclusivity to those people who are having barriers to enter into the financial markets, etc. So I think that's the whole drive. Where do you see that these three pillars fit in? I know that you said it's empowering. Just to pick your thoughts in terms of the sports and the community side coming into this business strategy, how do you think it's fitting in?
Well, firstly, it has a little bit of personality, I would say. I think even through the DNA that runs through our founders, it has their passion. If you say sports, I think JXG and sports, cricket, they go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
It's embedded into our values, to everything that we do. So it adds a lot of personality, individualism into the foundation. So there's obviously a lot of passion involved, which also goes to show that, hey, not just passion, we have the expertise to do this.
To do that,
Because we have a lot of individuals carrying a lot of experience within those fields, not just sports, but also through education, through community service, because we have a lot of individuals within the leadership that has a lot of, valuable insights, experience, exposure that they bring into this foundation. So I think that is why it goes hand in hand with JXG as a company and as a foundation as well, because our personalities are embedded into it.
Absolutely.
And through every project that we do, it's not just that it's reflected, but it's also given that importance, I would say. So it goes hand in hand in that sense.
Sathma, something I have seen in sustainability projects, different corporates. I think that whole approach and the believability from the founder or the key personality, the leadership, that works well for an organization rather than you creating something. Have you seen this phenomenon, or what's your view on that?
Absolutely. I think your leaders make a difference.
Because some projects are closer to their heart, right? I don't want to name brands individually, I might miss few, but some of those initiatives taken by the founder or the key leadership personality, that inculcates quite well with the organization, and those projects are more sustainable and long-term ongoing projects, and it has better impact.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, leaders define you. I feel like when you look up to someone, it gets deeply rooted into your personalities as well. This person is amazing, he does this or she does this and all of that, right?
So it comes with extra bit of passion, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If your leader believes in something, I think
naturally
it gets embedded into you also. It shows in your personality also. Then, okay, this is great. Then, so that belief has to start from the founder level itself. I think top to bottom approach is the best, the fastest way, I would say, to also create that environment, right? If your leaders, if people you look up to believe in something, you also subconsciously start believing in it, right? Which is why I think it creates more of a, I would say, a stronger environment, a stronger mindset if your leaders have that passion, if your leaders believe in it, right? So for us, it will be from the founders itself. If they believe in something, a subconscious, you start believing it as well, because you look up to them, you value them, you respect them, right? So it comes down to you, and it then sort of goes
cascades
to
down
cascades down and goes through all of the projects that you do, all of the initiatives that you do, because it's so much harder to convince someone, but it's much more easier to believe in something.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. So your advice to our followers, and I'm sure there are the feedback I've got, there are a couple of corporates also following our podcast. So to those companies who have not started in this on a very strategic way, they must be doing projects in isolation. What's your advice? How should a company in a very simple way, in a summarized way, how should somebody set up this within an organization? What should you do?
They should start by looking at their why. Why do you want to do this? It's as simple as that. I mean, it doesn't have to be a corporate. It could be a small team of people getting together to do something. Why do you want to do this? As soon as you figure out your why, then you can figure out your what. So it's like a
why you do what you do.
Yes, a little Venn diagram, right? You figure out your why, then you figure out your what, and then you say, okay, then how do we do this? Then that's your biggest circle, right? So you figure those three out, and you can lay those into everything else. Like, that is your blueprint.
Okay.
You lay it down to everything that you do. Then, what if we align it with these set of things that we do? Or what if we, break it down into these segment? Or we already do this. Why don't we plug it here? That creates the
clarity in terms of
the framework, right?
Yeah.
So figuring out your why, what, your how is your first step. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I think that clarifies in terms of how you should be a responsible corporate citizen in terms of doing why you do what you do. So Sathma, this wraps up our conversation. Thank you very much for joining us and spending your time with us and sharing your knowledge. And you've been an extra passionate person on this whole subject. That's why we picked you up for our discussion. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved being here.
I wish you all the very best with your the future challenges, and in terms of mergers and acquisitions, as well as on the foundation. Wish you all the very best. Thank you. So folks, that wraps up our discussion today. Very interesting topic about responsible corporate citizenship. Whether you call it on CSR, whether you call it strategic CSR, it's about purpose-driven activities. And we live in a world and a society that is limited. We do business, we exist as corporates in a society which is limited, and it has impact. Global warming indicators show that the temperature is rising over the years, and it's for the society, it's for the environment. If we don't sustain this, where do we do business? So the community needs to be there, the environment needs to be there, and you need to be a responsible citizen in terms of conducting yourself in this environment. So Sathma gave her feedback and her thoughts and her expertise in terms of how should a corporate should move in. And from my end, a brand is built with purpose. The brand purpose fits well within that DNA of an organization. It's not something that you're forced to do. You do things with a purpose. That's where we all start in terms of doing our social good. So I hope that you enjoyed our podcast today. Stay tuned for more in the future podcast. Thank you. Signing off, Gamika De Silva.